The dust devils swirled through Seligman, Arizona territory, like ghosts dancing over graves, and Hannah Oakes stood on the sagging porch of the general store watching the last family wagon disappear toward Flagstaff, taking with them the final traces of hope that this town would ever recover from the silver mine collapse that had claimed 17 men 3 years prior. Hannah was 22 years old, and she had watched this town die slowly, family by family, dream by dream. The store she ran had been her father's, and before that, her grandfather's, established in 1873 when Seligman was just beginning to take root along the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad line. Now, in the spring of 1889, she was the only woman left in a settlement that barely counted as a town anymore. 15 men remained, most of them too old, too stubborn, or too poor to start fresh somewhere else. They came to her store for supplies, spoke to her with a mixture of respect and pity, and then shuffled back to their empty homes and fading memories. She swept the porch mechanically, her honey-colored hair tied back with a faded blue ribbon that had once been her mother's. Her mother had died when Hannah was 16, taken by fever. Her father had followed 2 years later, his heart giving out one morning while he was opening the store. Hannah had found him slumped over the counter, a peaceful expression on his weathered face, as if death had been a relief. She had buried him next to her mother on the hill overlooking town, where the wind sang through the scattered junipers, and the view stretched for miles across the high desert plateau. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly, and Hannah retreated inside the store's relative coolness. The shelves were only half-stocked now. The supply wagons came less frequently, and when they did, the drivers looked at her with concern, asking if she wouldn't rather leave with them. But where would she go? This store, this town, was all she knew. Her parents were buried here. Their dreams were buried here. She couldn't just abandon them, even if they were only memories now. She was reorganizing cans of beans when she heard the horses. 2 of them, by the sound, coming down the main street at an easy pace. Hannah moved to the window and watched as 2 riders approached. Cowboys, clearly, from their dust-covered clothes and well-worn saddles. They dismounted in front of the saloon across the street, but old Pete, who ran the place, had died last month, and nobody had bothered to reopen it. One of the cowboys was tall and lean, with dark hair visible beneath his hat. The other was broader in the shoulders, his movements confident and measured. They spoke to each other, looking around at the near-empty street, and then the taller one pointed toward her store. They tied their horses to the rail and crossed the dusty expanse. The door creaked open, and both men removed their hats as they entered. That simple gesture of courtesy touched something in Hannah's heart. Most of the remaining townsmen had stopped bothering with such niceties long ago. "Afternoon, madam," the taller one said. His eyes were a striking gray, and his face was handsome in a weathered, honest way. "We were hoping to buy some supplies." "Of course," Hannah said, smoothing her apron. "What do you need?" "Coffee beans, flour if you have it," the broader one said. His voice was deeper, warmer, and when he smiled, his whole face transformed. He had brown eyes that crinkled at the corners, and there was something gentle in his expression despite his imposing build. "Trail rations mostly. We are heading up toward Prescott." "I can help you with that," Hannah said, moving behind the counter. "Are you just passing through?" "That was the plan," the gray-eyed man said. "But this town seems mighty quiet. Anything wrong?" Hannah measured out coffee beans, pouring them into a paper sack. "Seligman is dying. Silver mine collapsed 3 years back. Most folks have moved on." "Sorry to hear that," the broader man said, and he sounded genuinely sympathetic. "Must be hard staying in a place like this." "It is my home," Hannah said simply. "I am Hannah Oakes. This store belonged to my father." Austin Rhodes, the tall one said, extending his hand across the counter. His handshake was firm but not crushing. This is my friend, Aaron Riley. Hannah blinked at the coincidence of their first names but said nothing of it. Aaron Riley stepped forward and shook her hand as well, his grip warm and gentle. "Pleased to meet you, Miss Oakes." "Just Hannah, please," she said. "We are not formal in Seligman. What is left of it, anyway?" She gathered their supplies efficiently, adding up the cost in her head. Both men watched her work with an attentiveness that made her self-conscious. She was not used to strangers anymore, and certainly not to men her own age. Most of the remaining townsmen were over 50. "That will be $3.40, she said. Austin counted out the money carefully, adding an extra quarter. "For your trouble," he said. "That is not necessary," Hannah protested. "Please," Aaron said. "It is a long ride from anywhere to here. We appreciate you keeping the store open." Something in his tone made Hannah accept the extra coin. She placed their supplies in a canvas bag and handed it across the counter. Their fingers brushed briefly, and she felt a strange flutter in her chest that she had not experienced in years. "Is there a place to stay in town?" Austin asked. "Or should we make camp outside?" "The boarding house closed last year," Hannah said, "but there are empty buildings all over. The old hotel has a roof that does not leak too badly if you want shelter for the night." "We might take you up on that," Aaron said. "Our horses could use a rest." The men thanked her and left, and Hannah stood in the empty store feeling oddly unsettled. She had grown accustomed to loneliness, had built her life around it, but their presence had reminded her of what she was missing: conversation, courtesy, the simple pleasure of seeing new faces. That evening she closed the store at dusk as always and walked home to the small house behind the building. She made herself supper, alone as always, and sat on her back porch watching the stars emerge. The night air was cool and clean, carrying the scent of sage and juniper. In the distance, she could see a campfire near the old hotel. The Cowboys had decided to stay after all. She tried not to think about them as she prepared for bed, but her mind kept returning to Austin's gray eyes and Aaron's warm smile. She told herself she was being foolish. They would be gone in the morning, riding north toward Prescott and whatever work they were seeking. She would return to her routine, to her slowly failing store and her slowly dying town. But she was wrong. The next morning, both men appeared at her store just after she opened. They looked freshly washed, their hair damp, and they smiled at her like she was an old friend rather than someone they had met just yesterday. "Morning, Hannah," Aaron said. "We were wondering if you might need some help around here." Hannah looked at them in confusion. "Help with what?" "Anything," Austin said. "We noticed your porch steps are sagging, and that back fence looks about ready to fall over. We figured we could spend a day or two fixing things up. Payment for letting us stay in the hotel." "You do not owe me anything," Hannah said, "and I cannot pay you for work." "We are not asking for pay," Aaron said. "Just pointing out that a lady should not have to worry about her porch collapsing. If you have tools, we have time." Hannah wanted to refuse, but the truth was she had been worrying about those steps for months. Old Jim, the town carpenter, had promised to fix them, but he had left for California in February. And these men were offering freely, asking nothing in return. "I have tools in the shed," she said quietly. "And thank you, truly." The men set to work immediately, and Hannah tried to focus on her daily tasks. But she found herself watching them through the window, admiring the easy way they worked together, how Austin measured and planned while Aaron did the heavy lifting. They worked well as a team, and she learned from their conversation that they had been friends since childhood, growing up on neighboring ranches in Texas, before setting out to see more of the territory. At midday, Hannah brought them water and sandwiches. They accepted gratefully, sitting in the shade of her porch to eat. "You have done too much already," Hannah said. "The steps look wonderful." "We will get that fence next," Austin said. "Should not take long." "Why are you doing this?" Hannah asked. The question came out more bluntly than she intended, but she needed to understand. Aaron looked at Austin, and some unspoken communication passed between them. Then Aaron turned to Hannah with that gentle smile. "Honest truth. This town may be dying, but you are still here, keeping it alive. That takes courage. Seems like the least we can do is help where we can." His words touched something deep inside Hannah, some lonely place she had tried to ignore. Her eyes burned with unexpected tears, and she blinked them away quickly. "That is very kind of you to say." "It is the truth," Austin said simply. "We have seen a lot of towns in our travels. Most people would have given up long ago. But you are still here, still running your store, still taking care of things. That is worth respecting." Hannah did not trust herself to speak, so she just nodded and retreated back into the store. But her heart felt lighter than it had in months, maybe years. These strangers saw her in a way nobody else had, acknowledged her struggle without pity, recognized her strength without making her feel like an oddity. The afternoon passed quickly, and by the time the sun was setting, the fence was repaired and the porch looked better than it had in years. Hannah stood admiring their work, shaking her head in amazement. "I do not know how to thank you," she said. "No thanks needed," Aaron assured her. "But we would not say no to a home-cooked meal if you were offering. We have been eating trail food for 2 weeks straight." Hannah laughed, a sound that surprised her with its genuine joy. "I think I can manage that. Come to my house behind the store in an hour. That will give me time to prepare something decent." She rushed home and pulled out ingredients she had been saving, suddenly wanting to create something special. She made chicken stew with vegetables from her garden, fresh bread, and apple pie from her carefully hoarded supply of canned apples. It was more food than she had prepared in months, and the familiar activity filled her with unexpected happiness. When the men arrived, they stood in her doorway looking almost nervous, their hats in their hands. Hannah realized this was the first time anyone besides her had been inside her home in over a year. She had grown so accustomed to solitude that she had forgotten the pleasure of hospitality. "Come in, please," she said. "Do not be shy." They sat at her small table, and Hannah served them generous portions. Both men ate with obvious appreciation, complimenting her cooking until she blushed. The conversation flowed easily, and she learned more about them. Austin was 24, Aaron was 23, and they had been cowboying across the territory for 3 years, working ranches and trail drives, saving their money with dreams of eventually buying land of their own. "What about you?" Austin asked. "Have you always lived in Seligman?" "I was born here," Hannah said. "My grandfather came in 1873 when the railroad was being built. He saw opportunity in a supply store. My father took over after him, and then I took over after my father. It is all I have ever known." "Do you ever think about leaving?" Aaron asked gently. Hannah was quiet for a moment, considering. "Every day," she admitted. "But where would I go? This store is my legacy. My parents built their lives here. I feel like leaving would be abandoning them somehow." "They would want you to be happy," Austin said, "not trapped." "I know," Hannah said softly, "but happiness is not always about what you want. Sometimes it is about what you owe to those who came before." Aaron leaned forward, his brown eyes serious. "You do not owe anyone your whole life, Hannah. Your parents would want you to live, not just exist." His words struck deep, articulating something Hannah had been feeling but could not name. She had been existing, not living, going through motions, maintaining routines but not truly experiencing life. When had she last felt joy? When had she last looked forward to tomorrow? The evening stretched on, and Hannah found herself laughing and talking more than she had in years. Both men were excellent company, though in different ways. Austin was thoughtful and observant, asking questions that showed he really listened to her answers. Aaron was warmer and more openly expressive, his emotions clear in his face and voice. Together, they made her feel seen and valued in a way she had almost forgotten was possible. When they finally left, thanking her profusely for the meal, Hannah stood in her doorway watching them walk back toward the hotel. She felt something stirring in her chest, something dangerous and hopeful and terrifying all at once. She was beginning to care about these men, these strangers who had appeared in her dying town like an answer to prayers. She had not even known she was praying. The next morning brought another surprise. Both cowboys appeared at her store with their horses saddled and loaded, and Hannah's heart sank. They were leaving as she had known they would eventually. She plastered on a smile and prepared to bid them farewell, but Austin spoke first. "We have been talking," he said, "and we have decided to stay in Seligman for a while longer, if that is all right with you." Hannah stared at them. "Stay." "But why? There is no work here." "There is plenty of work," Aaron said. "This whole town needs attention. Buildings need repair, streets need clearing, and your store could use some help too if you would accept it." "I told you, I cannot pay you," Hannah said, her voice wavering between hope and practicality. "We have enough saved to get by for a few months," Austin said. "And honestly, after 3 years of drifting, it might be nice to settle somewhere for a bit, even if that somewhere is a dying town. Especially if that somewhere has a good cook who makes incredible apple pie," Aaron added with a grin. Hannah felt tears threatening again, but this time she did not fight them. "You would really stay, even though there is nothing here?" Austin's gray eyes met hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "There is something here," he said quietly, "someone worth staying for." Aaron nodded in agreement, his expression equally serious. "You should not have to face this alone, Hannah. Let us help, please." Hannah realized in that moment that both men were not just being kind. There was something more in their eyes, something that both thrilled and frightened her. They cared about her, maybe more than cared, and she was beginning to feel the same way about them, though the thought seemed impossible. How could she be drawn to both of them? How could they both be looking at her like she was precious, like she mattered? "I would be grateful for the company," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "More grateful than you know." The weeks that followed were the happiest Hannah could remember since before her father's death. Austin and Aaron threw themselves into repairing the town, starting with the buildings closest to her store. They fixed roofs, replaced boards, cleared debris. The old townsman watched with curiosity at first, then with growing approval. Having young men around changed the atmosphere of Seligman, brought energy and purpose back to the dusty streets. Hannah found herself looking forward to each day in a way she never had before. The men would come to her store in the morning, asking what supplies they needed for their work. She would prepare lunch for all 3 of them, and they would eat together, talking and laughing. In the evenings, they often shared dinner as well, taking turns cooking or working together in her small kitchen. But beneath the surface of this domestic harmony, Hannah was becoming increasingly aware of a complicated situation developing. Both Austin and Aaron were falling in love with her, and she was falling in love with both of them. She saw it in the way Austin looked at her when he thought she was not watching, his gray eyes soft with longing. She felt it in the way Aaron always found excuses to be near her, to touch her hand briefly when passing tools or plates. And she felt her own heart respond to both of them, drawn to Austin's quiet depth and Aaron's warm openness in equal measure. It was impossible. It was improper. It was going to break someone's heart, maybe all of their hearts. But Hannah could not seem to stop it from happening. She had been alone for so long, and now she had two good men showing her kindness and affection, and she wanted both of them with an intensity that shamed her. The situation came to a head one evening in late May. The three of them had finished dinner, and they were sitting on Hannah's back porch watching the sunset paint the desert sky in shades of orange and purple. Aaron had been quiet all evening, and Austin kept glancing at him with concern. Finally, Aaron stood abruptly. "I need to say something," he announced, "and it cannot wait any longer." Hannah's heart began to pound. She knew what was coming and she did not know how to handle it. "Hannah," Aaron said, turning to face her, "I have grown to care about you these past weeks. More than care, I think I am falling in love with you, and I know this is sudden and maybe I have no right to say it, but I cannot keep it inside anymore." Hannah stood as well, her hands trembling. "Aaron, wait," Austin interrupted, rising from his seat. His face was pale but determined. "I need to speak too. Hannah, I feel the same way. I have been trying to respect Aaron's friendship, trying not to interfere, but I cannot stay silent. I love you. I have loved you since the first day I met you, when you stood behind that counter looking so brave and sad at the same time." Hannah pressed her hands to her face, overwhelmed. "Please, both of you, this is too much." "We know," Aaron said gently, "and we are sorry to burden you this way, but you deserve honesty. We both care about you and we will not fight over you or make you choose. If you want neither of us, we will accept that and leave. If you want one of us, the other will step aside. We have already talked about this, Hannah. Our friendship matters too much to let it be destroyed. We just need to know how you feel," Austin added, "even if that feeling is nothing at all." Hannah lowered her hands and looked at both of them, these good men who had brought light back into her dark world. "But that is the problem," she whispered. "It is not nothing, and it is not just one of you. I have feelings for both of you, and I do not know what to do about that. I do not know how to choose." The silence that followed was deafening. Both men stared at her, processing her confession. Then, slowly, Aaron began to smile. "You care about both of us. I know it is wrong," Hannah said miserably. "I know I should choose or send you both away or something. But I cannot seem to make my heart listen to reason." Austin walked closer to her, his expression gentle. "Hannah, do you know why Aaron and I have stayed friends for so long? Why we work so well together?" Hannah shook her head, confused by the change in subject. "Because we understand that some things are bigger than pride or convention," Austin continued. "We have always supported each other, always put the friendship first. And if you have feelings for both of us, well, maybe that is not a problem to solve. Maybe it is just the truth to accept." "I do not understand," Hannah said. Aaron moved to her other side and she found herself between them, feeling both protected and overwhelmed. "What Austin is trying to say in his complicated way is that we have already talked about this possibility, not expecting it but acknowledging it. And we decided that if it happened, if you cared for both of us and we both loved you, then maybe the solution is not you choosing. Maybe the solution is all of us choosing each other." Hannah's eyes widened. "You mean, but that is not people do not. People do all sorts of things," Austin said softly. "Especially out here, where society's rules do not reach quite as far. We would not be the first 3 people to make an unconventional family, and we would not be the last." "But what would that even look like?" Hannah asked, her mind spinning. "We would figure it out together," Aaron said. "The 3 of us making our own rules, building our own life, here in Seligman or somewhere else if you wanted, but together, if that is what you want." Hannah looked between them, seeing the sincerity in both their faces. They meant it. They were offering her something she had not even known was possible, a solution to the impossible choice tearing her apart. She could have both of them, and they could all have each other. "I need time to think," she said finally. "This is too big to decide right now." "Of course," Austin said. "Take all the time you need," but Aaron reached out and gently took her hand. "Just know that we love you, Hannah, both of us, and we would do anything to make you happy. That is the honest truth of our hearts." Hannah squeezed his hand, then reached for Austin's as well. Standing there between them, holding both their hands while the sunset faded to twilight, she felt something click into place inside her. This was right. However unconventional, however scandalous it might seem to the outside world, this felt like coming home. These two men, so different but both so good, both offering her their hearts with no demands or conditions. "I do not need time," she heard herself say. "I already know my answer. I love you both. And if you are truly willing to try this, to build something together that defies all convention, then yes. Yes to both of you. Yes to whatever life we can create." Aaron let out a whoop of joy and pulled her into an embrace that lifted her off her feet. Austin laughed, a sound of pure relief, and when Aaron set her down, Austin stepped in and kissed her forehead gently, reverently, like she was something precious and rare. "You have made us the happiest men in the territory," Austin said. "Maybe the whole West," Aaron added, and then he turned serious. "Hannah, we will do right by you. We will protect you and care for you and build you the life you deserve. This is no casual thing for us. We are committing to you completely. And to each other," Austin added. "The three of us together. That is the promise." Hannah felt tears sliding down her cheeks, but they were tears of joy this time, not sorrow. "I believe you," she said. "I trust you both." The months that followed were a revelation. The three of them worked out the logistics of their unusual arrangement with surprising ease. Austin and Aaron moved into Hannah's house, adding 2 rooms to accommodate them all comfortably. They worked on the town during the day, gradually bringing Seligman back from the brink of extinction. Hannah ran the store, but now she had help when she needed it, and the burden of survival no longer rested solely on her shoulders. At night, they would gather together, sometimes talking until late, sometimes sitting in comfortable silence. Hannah learned the rhythms of both men, understanding that Austin showed his love through actions and careful attention, while Aaron expressed himself through words and physical affection. She learned to need both types of love, to appreciate the balance they created in her life. The physical aspects of their relationship developed slowly, carefully, with constant communication and respect. Hannah had been nervous about this aspect, unsure how it would work with 2 men. But Austin and Aaron guided her gently, never pushing, always making sure she felt comfortable and cherished. They took turns in some ways, shared in others, and Hannah found herself experiencing a depth of intimacy she had never imagined possible. The remaining townspeople noticed the arrangement, of course. In a town of barely a dozen souls, nothing stayed secret. But if they disapproved, they kept it to themselves. Hannah, Austin, and Aaron worked too hard and helped too much for anyone to voice criticism. They repaired old Jim's house when he returned from California, having found no better prospects. They helped old Samuel rebuild his barn. They organized the remaining townspeople to clear the main street and paint the faded buildings. By autumn, Seligman looked less like a dying town and more like a place with a future again. A few families who had left began drifting back, hearing that things were improving. The supply wagons came more regularly. The railroad station master, who had been threatening to close the depot, decided to keep it open after all. Hannah stood in her store one October morning, looking at shelves that were fully stocked for the first time in years, and felt a profound sense of gratitude. Her life had transformed completely in the span of 6 months. She had gone from being the last woman in a dying town, facing a future of slow decline and loneliness, to being a woman loved by two good men, part of a thriving household, watching her town come back to life. Austin came into the store carrying lumber for the new counter he was building. He had become essential to the store's operation, using his skills to improve and expand the business. Aaron was out on the edge of town helping to repair the water tower, using his strength to accomplish what would have taken several men otherwise. "How is the counter coming?" Hannah asked, moving to Austin's side. "Should be finished by tomorrow," he said, then paused and looked at her intently. "Hannah, there is something I have been wanting to discuss with both of you actually." "What is it?" "I have been thinking about making our arrangement more permanent, more official in whatever way we can manage. I know we cannot all marry legally, but there must be some way to formalize our commitment, some way to show the world that we are a family, not just three people living together." Hannah's heart swelled with emotion. She had been thinking the same thing, wanting some kind of ceremony or acknowledgement, but she had not known how to bring it up. "I would like that very much." "We should talk to Aaron about it tonight," Austin said. "The three of us should decide together." That evening they gathered in their sitting room and Austin raised his idea. Aaron's face lit up immediately. "I have been thinking along the same lines," he said. "We could do something private just for us. Exchange rings, make vows. It may not be legal, but it would be real in the ways that matter." "We could do it here," Hannah suggested. "In our home where we have built our life together, we do not need a church or a judge. We just need each other and our promises." They planned it for the following Sunday, giving themselves time to prepare. Hannah made a special dinner. Austin crafted 3 rings from silver ore he had found while helping to clear debris from the old mine. Aaron wrote vows that he practiced in private, wanting them to be perfect. On Sunday evening they stood together in their sitting room, all dressed in their best clothes. Hannah wore her mother's blue dress, carefully preserved. Austin and Aaron wore clean shirts and their good pants, their hair neatly combed. Aaron spoke first. "Hannah, Austin, I stand before you today to pledge my life to yours. I promise to love you, honor you, and stand by you through whatever comes. I promise to put our family first, to work for our happiness, and to never take for granted the gift of your love. You have both saved me from a life of drifting with no purpose. You have given me a home and a reason to build something lasting. I am yours, now and always." Austin went next. "Hannah, Aaron, I make this promise to you with a full heart and clear mind. I will love you until my last breath. I will protect what we have built together. I will work every day to deserve the love you have given me. You have taught me that family is not defined by convention but by commitment, not by what society approves, but by what our hearts know to be true. I choose you both, freely and completely, for all my days." Hannah felt tears streaming down her face as she spoke her own vows. "Austin, Aaron, you came into my life when I had given up hope. You saw me when I felt invisible. You valued me when I felt worthless. You loved me when I felt unlovable. I promise to honor that gift every day of my life. I promise to love you both equally and completely, to build with you, to dream with you, to grow old with you. You are my heart, both of you, and I am yours without reservation." Austin slipped the first ring onto Hannah's finger, then Aaron added the second. They each wore one as well, symbols of their three-way bond. Then they embraced, all three of them holding each other, and Hannah felt the rightness of it down to her bones. This was her family. These were her people. This was where she belonged. Winter came, and with it new challenges. The snows were heavy that year, isolating Seligman from the larger territory, But the town was prepared now, with full stores and repaired buildings. Hannah, Austin, and Aaron weathered the cold months together, grateful for the warmth of their home and their love. It was during those long winter nights that Hannah began to suspect she might be pregnant. She waited to be sure before saying anything, but by February she was certain. She chose a quiet evening when they were all together to share the news. "I have something to tell you both," she said, her hands trembling slightly with nervous excitement. Both men immediately gave her their full attention, concern evident in their faces. "Nothing is wrong," she assured them quickly. "Actually, something is very right. I am pregnant. We are going to have a baby." The silence lasted only a heartbeat before both men were on their feet, surrounding her with embraces and exclamations of joy. Aaron laughed and cried at the same time. Austin held her so gently as if she might break. "A baby," Aaron kept saying. "We are going to be fathers. Both of us," Austin said firmly. "We are both this child's father equally. That is how this works." Hannah nodded, loving them both more in that moment than she thought possible. "Both of you, always." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Hannah continued to run the store with help from both men, who became increasingly protective as her belly grew. The townspeople were kind about the situation, the older women offering advice and hand-me-down baby clothes. If anyone wondered about the paternity, they kept it to themselves. In September of 1890, Hannah gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Henry, after Hannah's father. He had Hannah's honey-colored hair and eyes that seemed to shift between Austin's gray and Aaron's brown, depending on the light. Both men were present for the birth. Both held him in those first precious hours. Both cried with joy and wonder. Watching Austin rock little Henry to sleep, his weathered cowboy hands so gentle with the tiny infant, Hannah felt her heart might burst. And seeing Aaron sing softly to the baby, his deep voice turned tender, she knew she could not have chosen between these men. She needed them both, and their son needed them both. The years that followed were full and happy. Seligman continued to grow, slowly but steadily. More families returned or arrived for the first time. The mine reopened under new management, employing 12 men. The town was never again what it had been in its boom days, but it was alive and viable, a real community. Hannah, Austin, and Aaron became pillars of that community. Hannah's store prospered. Austin became known as the best carpenter in the region, taking on projects throughout the territory. Aaron started a small horse ranch on land they purchased outside of town, breeding and training quality mounts. Together, they built a prosperous, respected life. They had 2 more children over the following years. A daughter named Sarah came in 1892, with Aaron's brown eyes and Austin's quiet demeanor. Another son, called James, was born in 1894, with Hannah's smile and a personality that blended both his father's best qualities. The children grew up knowing they had 2 fathers and never questioning it. That was simply how their family worked. They were loved abundantly, protected fiercely, and taught to value honesty and hard work above all else. In their world, having 2 fathers was not strange, it was simply their blessed reality. Hannah watched her children play in the yard one evening in the summer of 1895 and reflected on how far she had come. 6 years ago, she had been alone in a dying town, facing a future of slow decline. Now she had a thriving family, a successful business, and a town full of neighbors and friends. She had love beyond anything she had imagined possible and a life richer than any storybook dream. Austin came to stand beside her, slipping his arm around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" "How lucky I am," Hannah said simply. "How grateful." "We are the lucky ones," Aaron said, joining them on her other side. You gave us everything, Hannah. Purpose, family, home. We were just drifters before we met you. You were never just anything, Hannah corrected. You were two good men with honest hearts. I recognized that from the first day. And we recognized you, Austin said. The bravest woman we had ever met, standing alone but not broken, keeping faith with the dead while still fighting for the living. Hannah leaned into both of them, feeling their solid warmth, their unwavering presence. I love you both so much. And we love you, they said together, and then laughed at the synchronization. Little Henry came running up, demanding attention, and they all turned to their children. The evening passed in the beautiful chaos of family life, with dinner and baths and bedtime stories. Later, after the children were asleep, the three adults sat together on their porch watching the stars, comfortable in the silence of long companionship. The years continued to pass peacefully. Seligman established a proper school in 1897, and Hannah joined the school board. Austin built the new schoolhouse, taking pride in making it sturdy and welcoming. Aaron donated horses to help the town doctor make his rounds more efficiently. They were known as eccentric but essential, their unusual family structure overlooked because of their countless contributions. By 1900, as a new century dawned, Hannah was 33 years old. Austin was 35, Aaron 34. Their oldest son, Henry, was 10 and already showing signs of his father's work ethic and his mother's intelligence. Sarah, at 8, was bold and funny, keeping everyone on their toes. James, at 6, was gentle and creative, drawing pictures of everything he saw. One evening in late summer, after the children were in bed, Hannah sat between Austin and Aaron on their expanded porch. They had built onto the house several times over the years, creating space for their growing family while maintaining the original structure her grandfather had built. "You remember the day we met?" Aaron asked, his voice soft with nostalgia. "You looked so fierce standing behind that counter, like you were daring the world to defeat you." "I remember being terrified," Hannah admitted, "and so lonely I had forgotten what hope felt like." "I knew the moment I saw you that my life was about to change," Austin said. "I did not know how, but I felt it, this certainty that you mattered, that we were supposed to be here." "I thought you would leave after a day or two," Hannah said. "I was sure I would never see you again. And then you stayed, and you kept staying, and suddenly I had everything I had ever wanted but never let myself dream about." "Best decision we ever made," Aaron said firmly. "Staying here, building this life with you, I would not change a single thing." Austin took Hannah's hand, then reached across to clasp Aaron's as well, connecting the three of them. "We built something good here, something that will last beyond us. Our children will remember that love does not have to look like what everyone else thinks it should. They will know that family is what you make it, and that honesty and commitment matter more than convention. They will know they were wanted and loved," Hannah added. "That is the most important thing. Everything else is details." They sat together in the gathering darkness, three people who had found each other against impossible odds and built an impossible life. Seligman hummed with quiet evening activity around them, a living testament to their refusal to give up. The town had been dying when they found it, and now it thrived. Hannah had been alone, and now she had a family. Austin and Aaron had been drifting, and now they had purpose. As stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Hannah thought about the future. Their children would grow up in a world that was changing rapidly. The Wild West was being tamed, becoming more civilized and structured. But she hoped their family would remain a small pocket of resistance against rigid conformity, a reminder that love could take many forms and still be true. Years continued to unfold with the steady rhythm of a good life. Henry, Sarah, and James grew into fine young people, educated and hardworking, proud of their unusual family. The whispers and occasional criticism they faced from the outside world only strengthened their bond. They learned early that their parents' love was worth defending, that different was not wrong, and that courage sometimes meant simply being yourself in a world that demanded conformity. In 1905, when Henry was 15, he asked his mother a question that she had been expecting for years. They were working in the store together, restocking shelves, when he said casually, "Mother, do people ever ask you which of my fathers is my real father?" Hannah paused in her work, considering her answer carefully. "Sometimes," she admitted. "Do people ask you once or twice?" "I never know what to say." Hannah set down the canned goods she was holding and turned to face her son fully. "Henry, both Austin and Aaron are your real fathers. They both love you, both raised you, both would die to protect you. The biology does not matter. What matters is the love and the commitment. Do you understand?" Henry nodded slowly. "I do. I just wanted to hear you say it." "You can ask us anything," Hannah said. "Always. Your fathers and I have never hidden anything from you children. Our family is built on honesty." "I know," Henry said, and he smiled. "That is what makes us strong." Hannah hugged her son, marveling at how tall he had grown, how mature he was becoming. She saw both his fathers in him, in his careful way of thinking and his warmth with others. He was a blend of all three of them, as were Sarah and James. That was the beauty of it. Their children were not just hers or Austin's or Aaron's. They belonged to all of them, created by love if not always by blood. Sarah, at 13, was becoming a young woman with strong opinions and a fierce loyalty to her family. She faced down anyone who dared criticize their household, arguing eloquently that love in any form was better than the coldness she saw in many supposedly proper families. Hannah worried sometimes that Sarah's defensiveness would isolate her, but she was also proud of her daughter's courage. James, at 11, was quieter than his siblings but no less certain of his place in the family. He drew pictures of their house and labeled them carefully. Mother, Father Austin, Father Aaron, Henry, Sarah, me. His art teacher at school had questioned the labeling once, and James had simply said, "That is my family," with such calm certainty that the teacher had let it drop. The children were their legacy, Hannah thought often. Not just the fact of them, but who they were becoming. Good people, honest people, people who knew that love was not about following rules but about commitment and choice. In 1910, as the town celebrated Arizona's continued growth toward statehood, Hannah was 43. Austin was 45, Aaron 44. They were no longer the young people who had met in a dying town, but they were healthy and happy. Their love matured into something deeper than passion. They knew each other completely now, all the flaws and strengths, all the habits and quirks. And they loved each other still, perhaps more than ever because of that knowledge. Henry was preparing to go to college in California, the first of their children to leave home. Hannah felt the bittersweet ache of watching him pack, knowing he was ready but still wanting to hold him back. Both Austin and Aaron helped him prepare, offering advice and encouragement in their different ways. The night before Henry left, the whole family gathered for a special dinner. Hannah cooked all of Henry's favorites, and they sat around their expanded dining table sharing stories and laughter. After the meal, Austin stood and raised his glass. "To Henry," he said, "our son, our pride, our joy. You are heading out into a world that will not always understand where you come from, but you carry with you the values we have tried to teach you. Honesty, hard work, love without boundaries. We are proud of who you have become, and we trust you to make us prouder still." Aaron added his own toast. "Henry, You are braver than you know because you grew up in an unusual family and never let it make you ashamed. You defended us when others questioned us, and you loved us when it would have been easier to be embarrassed. That takes courage. Take that courage with you to California and beyond. And know that you always have a home here with us, no matter where life takes you. Henry's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I am who I am because of all of you. Mother, Father Austin, Father Aaron. You taught me that love matters more than convention, that family is what you build, not what you are given. I will carry that with me always. And I will make you proud. I promise. Hannah could not speak past the lump in her throat, so she simply stood and embraced her firstborn, holding him tight. Then Austin and Aaron joined the embrace, and Sarah and James piled on too, and they all stood there together. A tangle of arms and love and bittersweet joy. Henry left the next day, and the house felt emptier without him. But letters came regularly, full of news about his studies and his life in California. He was thriving, making friends, learning and growing, and he never hid where he came from or who his family was. That was perhaps the greatest gift they had given him, Hannah thought. The confidence to be honest about his life, regardless of others' judgment. Sarah followed her brother to college 3 years later, heading to a teacher's college in New Mexico. She wrote letters full of passion about education and reform, about her dreams of returning to Seligman to teach. Hannah saved every letter, proud of her daughter's fierce intelligence and determination. James, as the youngest, stayed home longer. He apprenticed with Austin, learning carpentry and finding that he had a gift for it. He also continued his art, creating beautiful carved pieces that blended utility and beauty. Aaron taught him about horses, and James discovered he loved working with animals as much as with wood by 1920. Hannah was 53. Austin was 55. Aaron 54. They were grandparents now, Henry having married and had 2 children of his own. He had been honest with his wife about his unusual family from the start, and she had accepted it with grace. They visited Seligman regularly, bringing the grandchildren to play in the same yard where their father had grown up. Sarah taught at the Seligman school, beloved by her students and respected by the community. She had not married, declaring that she was perfectly happy living her own life on her own terms. Hannah recognized her own independent spirit in her daughter and supported her fully. James had married a quiet girl from Flagstaff, and they built a house next to Austin and Aaron's carpentry shop. They had 1 daughter, named Hannah after her grandmother, and James doted on her with all the love his own fathers had shown him. One evening in the summer of 1920, Hannah sat on the porch with Austin and Aaron, as they had done thousands of times over the 31 years since they had first met. The porch was different now, expanded and improved over the years, but the ritual was the same. 3 people watching the sunset, comfortable in the silence of deep love. "We did it," Hannah said softly. "We built a life, a good one." "We did," Aaron agreed. "Against all odds and conventional wisdom, we made it work." Austin took Hannah's hand, his grip still strong despite the arthritis that was beginning to stiffen his fingers. "I have never regretted a single day, not one. This has been the best life I could have imagined." "Better than I imagined," Aaron added, "because I never let myself imagine something like this was possible. And then we met you, Hannah, and suddenly everything became possible." Hannah looked at both of them. These men who had loved her for over 3 decades, who had built a family and a community with her, who had stayed through every challenge and celebrated every joy. Their faces were lined now, their hair gray, their bodies bearing the marks of hard work and passing time, but their eyes still held the same warmth, the same love that had drawn her in from the very beginning. "I was so alone before you came," Hannah said, so lost. I thought I would just fade away in this dying town, forgotten and pointless. And then you arrived, two cowboys passing through, and you saw me. Really saw me. Not just a woman running a store in a dying town, but a person worth staying for, worth loving. We are the ones who were found, Austin said. We were drifters with no real purpose, and you gave us a reason to put down roots to build something lasting. We found each other, Aaron said simply. All three of us. That is the truth of it. We were lost, and we found each other, and we built this beautiful, complicated, wonderful life together. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Around them, Seligman hummed with evening life. Children played in the street, including their own grandchildren. Lights came on in windows. Somewhere, someone was playing a fiddle. The town had come back to life, just as Hannah's own life had been resurrected by love and loyalty and honest hearts. The three of them sat together as darkness fell, hands linked, hearts intertwined. They had faced criticism and confusion, curiosity and judgment. But they had also experienced love deeper than most people ever knew, family bonds that transcended convention, and the profound satisfaction of building something true and lasting. Their story was not what anyone would have predicted when two cowboys rode into a dying town in 1889. But it was real, and it was theirs, and it was good. They had loved honestly, lived courageously, and created a legacy that would outlive them all. As stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Hannah felt a deep sense of peace. She had been the last woman in a dying town, facing an uncertain future. Two cowboys had arrived, and both had fallen for her honest heart. She had fallen for both of theirs. And together, they had created something rare and precious. A love that defied convention. A family that proved that hearts had no limits, and a life full of joy and purpose and enduring commitment. The years that followed continued to affirm the choices they had made. Their children and grandchildren grew up surrounded by love, understanding that family could take many forms and still be sacred. The town of Seligman flourished, and the three of them remained at its heart, respected elders who had helped save it from extinction. In 1925, when Hannah was 58, Arizona celebrated 15 years of statehood. The whole town threw a celebration, and Hannah, Austin, and Aaron were honored guests, recognized for their decades of service to the community. They sat together on the stage while the mayor spoke about their contributions, and Hannah felt Austin's hand in hers and Aaron's arm around her shoulders, and she thought about all the years that had brought them to this moment. "We made it," she whispered to both of them. "All the way to happiness." "And beyond," Austin whispered back. "To forever," Aaron added, and it was true. Their love had proven stronger than doubt, deeper than convention, more lasting than the stone buildings of Seligman itself. They had started as strangers in a dying town, and they had become a family that would echo through generations. Their grandchildren and great-grandchildren would tell the story of the last woman in a dying town and the two cowboys who loved her, and how together they had created something beautiful and true. As the celebration continued around them, Hannah looked at her family gathered below the stage. Henry with his wife and children, Sarah, proud and independent and beloved, James with his young family, continuing the traditions they had established. Grandchildren and great-grandchildren, all of them living proof that love had no boundaries, that family was what you made it, and that honest hearts could build honest lives. The sun set over Seligman, painting the sky in colors of gold and crimson. Hannah stood between Austin and Aaron, and they walked together through the celebrating crowd, three people united in love and purpose, their story written in every building they had repaired, every child they had raised, every year they had chosen each other. This was their legacy, not just the children and grandchildren, not just the town they had helped save, but the proof that love could transcend convention, that three people could build a family as strong and true as any other, that honest hearts, when they found each other, could create miracles. Years turned into decades, and still their love endured. They grew old together, all three of them, supporting each other through the aches and pains of aging bodies. When Austin's hands became too stiff for carpentry, Aaron and Hannah were there to help him adjust. When Aaron's hearing began to fail, Austin and Hannah learned to communicate in new ways. When Hannah's vision dimmed, both men read to her every evening, their voices a comfort in the gathering darkness. They were in their 80s when Aaron passed away peacefully in his sleep in 1940, surrounded by family. Hannah and Austin grieved deeply, but also celebrated a life well lived and a love well honored. They buried him on the hill overlooking Seligman, next to the plots they had reserved for themselves decades ago. Austin followed 3 years later, his heart giving out one spring morning while he was sitting on the porch watching the sunrise. Hannah held his hand as he slipped away, whispering her love, reminding him that Aaron was waiting and that she would join them both soon. Hannah lived another 5 years, cared for by her children and grandchildren, surrounded by love until her last breath. She passed away quietly in her sleep in 1948 at the age of 81, her life full and complete. They buried her between Austin and Aaron on the hill, 3 graves side by side, their headstones marking them as family. The inscription reads simply, Hannah Oakes Rhodes Riley, 1867–1948. Beloved wife and mother, she loved with an honest heart. Their children made sure the story was preserved, passed down through the generations. The tale of the last woman in a dying town and the 2 cowboys who loved her, and how together they had built something that defied convention, but honored love in its truest form. They had lived honestly, loved completely, and created a legacy that would inspire their descendants for generations to come. Seligman continued to thrive, growing and changing with the times. But the house where Hannah, Austin, and Aaron had raised their family remained standing, preserved by their descendants as a testament to love without boundaries. Visitors would come sometimes, hearing the story, wanting to see where it had all happened. And the family would tell the tale with pride, never hiding the truth, always celebrating the courage it had taken to live and love so honestly. The story of Hannah Oakes and her 2 cowboys became part of the fabric of Seligman, woven into its history as surely as the railroad tracks and the old mine. It was a story about love and courage, about building family on your own terms, about staying true to your heart even when the world said you were wrong. And on summer evenings, when the wind blew through the junipers on the hill where 3 graves stood side by side, people swore they could feel the presence of that love still, enduring beyond death, eternal as the stars that watched over the Arizona desert. 3 honest hearts that had found each other against all odds, and had created something beautiful and true that would last forever. The end came not with drama but with peace, 3 lives well lived, a love well honored, and a legacy that proved that the heart knows no boundaries when it finds its true home. Hannah, Austin, and Aaron had written their story across the landscape of Seligman, and in the hearts of their descendants, a testament to the power of honest love and courageous living. They had been 3 strangers who became a family, and their love had transformed not just themselves but an entire town, proving that sometimes the most unconventional choices lead to the most beautiful lives.